with the speed and size of the budgets and what was riding on those budgets, you could throw money at problems to make them go away. And I think at a smaller operation, startups or more lean types of businesses, it's got to be right the first time.
Todd Steinman, we're happy to have you here. Thank you for joining. We're excited to have a discussion today about Slingwave, marketing attribution, but big picture, all of the trends that you're seeing, because I know you've kind of sit at the crux of a lot of different trends. Kartoon Studio. Tell us about your role at Genius Brands, Kartoon Studio, and love to hear a bit about your background as well.
Absolutely. So my role currently is I'm president of Kartoon Studios Network, which is called Toon Media Networks. And we run both a kids and adult animation distribution business. We're on a bunch of different platforms. We have subscription video on demand platforms, ad-supported video on demand, free streaming linear TV platforms, YouTube networks, et cetera. So we're really across a bunch of different kind of consumption points for consumers. We target both preschool all the way up to tweens and teens and young adults. We obviously have to communicate directly with parents when we're making decisions or helping them make decisions for kids. So we run the gamut from a marketing perspective on kind of where we're, who we're talking to, where we're talking to them, where we're trying to convert them, bringing entertaining and family-safe content to the fold and to bear for them. So it's a really interesting role. It has a lot of different components, everything from content and creative elements to pure financial elements, managing multiple P&Ls, to obviously measurement and attribution and the marketing side, which really is super focused on customer acquisition and, trying to make each of those businesses as profitable as possible.
Yeah, and I've seen you and team develop True North KPIs. Where do you stand today in terms of what is True North?
True North, I think, has really shifted, over the last couple of years in this space, which started and the world saw everybody trying to land grab market share. You had the premium streaming services emerge, Netflix obviously being the kind of the king of the hill. But as all the other players started emerging, it was really about kind of market share at all costs. That shifted pretty quickly about a year and a half ago. Businesses needed to run successfully, profitably, and that really changed the course of how we operated our business. So we started really dissecting what was working, what wasn't working. It wasn't just about how we can go to market and try to land as many subscribers or customers as possible. It was how do we effectively run the overall business.
And you've had, tell us more about your career. I think you've gone from major, massive companies to startups across all facets of marketing. Where did you start and what was your path from that start?
Yeah, so I've had a really lucky, great career. I started in really always digital, very nascent stage of kind of internet 1.0.
Yeah.
It was a role at Warner Brothers Records where I launched their internet department and really got to be a pioneer in the space. Was working on some of the first, audio clips on the internet and, for big artists, developing artist websites, e-commerce, marketing initiatives, really just kind of taking that relationship from what had historically been either kind of a record store or retail relationship, a radio relationship, and having a direct-to-consumer relationship with those artists for the first time. So that was a wild, really fun, amazing place to be, and got to work with some of the biggest artists in the world, everyone from the Red Hot Chili Peppers to Tom Petty to Madonna, and really started focusing on digital strategy and digital kind of development, whether it was 1.0 websites or applications as mobile emerged. Launched a agency with a couple ex-colleagues of mine or old colleagues of mine, and we had a business called M80, which was again a very early was internet marketing, but very early stage social media marketing. So we got in at the ground floor of social media marketing. It was a combination of digital PR and organic kind of community management. That started evolving into having all sorts of, research and analytics hooks. Obviously, paid social came around, and we grew it to a point where we ended up getting acquired by WPP. And that was a whole other kind of phase of my career where we started working outside of, M80 as a kind of a homegrown brand, was really working in music, theatrical, home entertainment, gaming, all the stuff that you can imagine, the LA and New York based studio businesses. And then we started really effectively working within the Fortune 500 as they really wanted to take on some of those same kind of programs and campaigns that were effectively being delivered to kind of these core fan base, affinity brands.
Yeah.
And
you were early on the fan trend.
Very early. Then we started working with everyone from Xbox to AT&T to pharma brands, auto brands like Audi. We were early agency of record for Audi, social media agency of record for Audi. So it was really a great ride. M80 at a certain point really got just absorbed into WPP's Group M, which was their media investment management business.
Yeah.
And I took on the NBCU portfolio, which was 16 different business units at the time, Universal Pictures, Focus Features, NBC Entertainment, and then all the cable BUs, and was running tune-in campaigns and theatrical campaigns, and really all on the digital side. Yeah. So got to work with the biggest and best platforms out there for digital marketing. Yeah. And we had a launch every week. So really got to learn quickly about the entire ecosystem, not just, from a lens of social media or paid social or biddable media, but everything from shotgun blast awareness campaigns to super precise targeted campaigns.
Now, my perception is when you were at Universal and you were in this apparatus of being able to measure what you're doing with a model and an agency and a big team, it's a great place to be. It's a very different place to be than when you're at a smaller startup or efficient company.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about those dynamics? What was it? What's the difference that you feel now?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest differences is when you're working on a massive campaign, multi-million-dollar campaign with when it came to theatrical, you'd have launches every Friday, and there was no real make good. If you missed the launch, the movie didn't open, and that was your shot. And so I think with the speed and size of the budgets and what was riding on those budgets, you could throw money at problems to make them go away. Mm. And I think at a smaller operation, startups or more lean types of businesses, it's got to be right the first time, or you really got to focus on the outcomes. And you don't have that luxury of having the huge budgets to be able to smooth out either mistakes or being able to double up on things that might be riskier, where you can just, again, have a big marketing budget kind of solve your problems. So you have to be a bit more strategic, not to say that those campaigns aren't strategic, because when you juggle that many, different platforms and that many different kind of campaign elements and the number of creative swap outs and all that, it's very strategic. This is just your outcomes are just a bit more precise than kind of working at that fast of a pace. It just would be impossible to be that kind of, precise when it comes to those style of campaigns. So startup and kind of more of the position that I'm in right now, we're analyzing lead-ins and start basically the ways to operate more than you would with title-driven businesses and launches. And then we're looking backwards, a lot longer, harder, and deeper to see what worked than you would, again, on like a title-driven campaign trail where you put out, 20, 50 titles a year.
Yeah. Well, you're currently in this position. I think it's fascinating. You've seen both sides of it. You're currently in a position, we're working together, and it's been a very, I would say, dynamic marketplace.
Yes, to say the least.
So what are you finding as being some of the biggest challenges? And then what are you seeing as the opportunities for your organization?
So I'd say the challenges are, especially with what our niche is within the kind of the streaming media space and the content and entertainment space, is we're working with kids.
Yep.
So we don't have the luxury of a lot of the very specific data points and direct data points that you might have outside of working with, 13 and over.
Right.
So that keeps us honest, and it actually is probably going to look a lot more like what more people are going to have to, contend with in the near future as cookieless, marketing, and I don't know what's going to happen with like how we're managing and marketing with pixels, but all those different things are not nearly as sophisticated as in our kid space as we would have typically and I'm used to. Yeah. So that's one challenge. So super reliant on models and proxies and the help that Slingwave has been able to really paint a picture for me without a lot of those things. I would say just the shifting landscape of we went from like this super saturated marketplace where everybody had more options and content at their disposal, and now there's still those options and the amount of different places and distributed elements and distributed outlets for them to consume great content. But the whole industry is shifting around profitability, and I don't think we're going to have this like super glut of content. So there's consolidation. There's just a lot more focused and leaner attempt to both gain users, audience, consumers, and retain them.
Yeah.
And that's been super challenging. And, the other challenges, which everybody's contending with, is where you find your audiences. Broadcast TV was great in its day because you knew where they all were, and you could find them pretty quickly. Even if the metrics weren't there behind them, contextually, you knew that they were there, and there was really nowhere else for them to go. Now it's, the so fragmented, and that's a big challenge. Cross-platform, where to find them and how to get to them.
In walled gardens, and you're in
brand walled gardens, right?
What's your perspective on these walled gardens of which we speak? We have Amazon, Meta, Google, everything that that's growing. TikTok, everything is its own walled garden.
It's nice to be a walled garden if you can get away with it, and those businesses are all booming businesses that each have their own. They each have their own really features and benefits. The challenge is when you operate outside that walled garden, how to look kind of over the wall and see what's really happening to your business. So I think we've been able to successfully look over that wall, or at least get glimpses and peeks over that wall with Slingwave's help, because you guys bring a view to bear that shows us what's happening kind of apples to apples. And the challenge is there's never going to be incentive for Amazon to show you the same apples that Google has, because they just operate different businesses and vice versa. So it will require a third party to level and normalize that kind of playing field for businesses to understand outcomes across them. And that's, it's a challenge, but I think there's, what I've learned from Slingwave is instrumenting that ladder to look over the wall is laborious, and it's difficult, but once you have it built, it really does pay dividends, and you realize you can't live without it. So I think that's it's been really great to be able to have that with Slingwave providing those tools for us, because without it, it becomes a guessing game, really trying to understand, am I looking at redundant audiences? Is something deduped? Am I wasting money here? Like, what level of waste is it? And what type of incrementality am I getting? And all those other kind of fun things that we talk about, like in the tactical phases of our weekly strategy meeting.
Which we love. And yeah, and I'm appreciating the complexity of your model, and it's not unique. I think every business has a unique back end in terms of how you're measuring subscribers or revenue, and there's obviously having collected data to align to that from the walled gardens is challenging. In the way that we work together, is there a particular part of the Slingwave solution, either the product or the way it's delivered, that has been helpful in the way, versus how you've seen this done in the past?
Yeah, I would say, one nice thing is we get, our homework gets graded in real time. We get to see exactly how many subs come through the door. We're seeing what consumption looks like. We know what shows are working and which ones aren't. And so I think a lot of that is, it's almost like built for the type of marketing that we're doing together, both the research analytics and marketing that we're doing together. So that's been great. There's not a lot of guessing. There is a lot of kind of finite black and white results that we get to look at, and it does force my hand to make decisions a lot easier, in the fact that I'm super informed on what is and what isn't working. And we're making decisions as fast as I've ever made them before. So I would say what's different kind of historically that I've been able to do is move kind of different strategies around and move money around and put different bets down, but not at the speed and pace that we're doing it right now, where we're doing it on, a weekly, daily basis, sometimes more than that. And we get to see the results, certainly daily, if not more. So that's really exciting and been very rewarding.
Because what was it, annual? Was it biannual in the past for you, or quarterly?
From at the very beginning, it was probably project.
Yeah.
Like, you set up the campaign around a specific project and it ran. And that project was probably, a campaign that was 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Sure. You probably didn't have much fluidity around what to do with it. Then as kind of digital analytics came into play, you knew there was information to be gleaned, but not necessarily how to use it or when to use it. So I would say it went from probably like quarterly, realistically, to monthly, to maybe, I'd say at best case, you do like some weekly iterations. Yeah. And I'm looking at our dashboards multiple times a day now. And fortunately, we're optimized to a point where we don't have to change things that quickly, because at the very beginning, we learned enough to know where to kind of place our bets. Right. But if we needed to, there's been plenty of times where we've had multiple optimizations in a given week, or even multiple times a day, with conversations I've had with your team. So I would say, the speed that we can optimize is there, but we've been fortunate enough to learn enough kind of at the outset to set our table in the best way possible.
Todd Steinman, thank you so much. And congrats on the growth of Kartoon Studios, seeing your success. How can people get a hold of you?
You can find me at Kartoon Studios, Kartoon Channel, Amoeba, or Frederator. Those are the 3 brands that I'm working on. And I'm online. You'll get me.
All right.
Thank you, Paul, and to Slingwave for all the help that you have helped me with to get to the level of success we've achieved together. So appreciate it.
Thank you.